I'm Guy Collins, director's on the job title. It says head honcho on the LinkedIn profile.
I noticed that, yeah. So BPX Group, there's 6 businesses, 220 employees, plus you've got your own side project.
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah. How do you manage your time?
You have to put yourself sometimes into a place of discomfort in order to make progress. My father spotted an opportunity to set up as a specialist electrical distributor. I used to have some stand-up chin-to-chin rows with him. He'd have shared with me that if you weren't my son, I'd have fired you, and if you weren't my father, I wouldn't still be working here.
How does it work with you and Roger then?
If you ask him, he'd say that he saves it and I spend it.
Is it a culture problem within UK manufacturing that's why we're not adopting as quick as other countries, because we just like to keep things running?
You go to a manufacturing site and they'll take you with pride to show you the machine in the corner that's been running for 40 years. Yep, so I'm Guy Collins and I'm a director here at BPX. Director's on the job title. It says head honcho on the LinkedIn profile.
I noticed that, yeah.
It covers a lot of, covers all sins, I suppose. I guess my job here is to work with the marketing department to be as inspirational as possible, and as our IT department to be as innovative as possible, and to use the sales teams and of course to kind of create a culture that's conducive to growth. And that's really the largest part of what I do.
Okay, so give us the history of BPX.
Oh, yeah, okay, well it's 60 years of history now, so I don't think you've got that much time. But so it started in 1965. And as a specialist distributor of industrial electrical equipment. At the time, distributors, there probably weren't distributors, there were wholesalers that sold cables and contactors alongside refrigerators and radiograms. And so my father spotted an opportunity to set up as a specialist electrical distributor, and built on service upon helping customers to select products and use those products, which is very much the premise of the business now. It's grown and it's got bigger. I've been here for 37 years, which is an awfully long time. And in the course of that time, the business has grown, and it continues to grow. It doubles in size about every 8 or 9 years. We're at mid 60 million now, and 220 people.
Wow.
I'm not sure it's a wow, but thank you.
It's definitely a wow, yeah, compared to my little startup with the 2 of us in a
Everything starts from somewhere.
Yeah, that's very true.
And there are big things that happen along the way. You know, I think one of the biggest things that in the early days of BPX was getting involved with telemechanique when telemechanique came into the UK.
Yeah. And
they had contactors that were much more economical and much smaller than the traditional contact that was being made in GEC or Brookhurst, Hygranic, or places like that. And the uptake of those by the machine tool industry, by woodworking machinery, the shoe machinery people of Leicester, which is where we were based, where our head office continues to be. The uptake was enormous, and both telemechanique and BPX grew together over the next 20 or 30 years.
Okay. And there's also Bridford Furniture, is that right?
Yeah, I've well spotted. You've been doing your research. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I looked for a standing desk, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that would be a nice standing desk, one that fitted well in your office or in a nice home environment. And they were difficult to find, and I ended up designing something. I wanted one where you couldn't see all the cables and all the apparatus and all the pillars as it rose. It looked like a piece of furniture when it was up and also when it was down.
Okay.
And so I ended up designing one, making one. Somebody said, "Oh, you should sell these," and Bridford Furniture was born. So
how long has that been going?
It's been going for probably close to 3 years now.
Okay.
And we sell a relatively small number of desks. They're high-end desks, and it's nice when the orders come and celebrate each one. Try and build a desk, and each one is a bespoke piece for the customer that owns it.
Okay, yeah, so is it like actively marketed, or is it just a website? Or
well, it is actively marketed, but these days you market things like that through all sorts of ways, and the website's an important part. Instagram presence, online social media. We're about to run a little advertising campaign, but it's a side project.
Yeah, but it's still very interesting, you know, that you run a big business like this. But then also, is it just yourself at Bridford?
Oh no, there's I get a little bit of help, but particularly from Ian, who's the designer and runs the manufacturing of it as well. And it's true in BPX as it is in many other industries. It's very hard to find people with the skill sets. So recently we had an apprentice furniture maker who's on a course at Nottingham University, and so it's the responsibility of businesses, and I think particularly of ones like BPX, to make sure that we're bringing people into the industry. We can't complain about there being a shortage of people if we're not doing our best to encourage people in the early stages of their career to work with us, to join with us, to help them understand our industry, the technologies, the business, the relationships, all the things that we do.
Okay. Well, I ask every guest a ton of questions about that, so we'll unpack that at some point. What does a normal day look like for you? If you try and pick one on average, because I'm sure they're all different.
I'm not first in, but I'm normally last out.
Okay.
And my brother Rog, who works here, as you know, he's normally first in. He'll be on his emails at 6:30 in the morning, and I've probably just shut down my laptop at 2 o'clock in the morning. So between us, we almost get 24 hours done. Lots of meetings, lots of catching up with. We have a senior management team, so lots of catching up with that senior management team, talking to suppliers, talking to customers, third parties, the stakeholders, and the accountants, all those kind of things that part of the day job. But I think the most important thing that I can do is it's about understanding what's going on in the environment in which we work, staying up to date with the technologies. What's the next year's technology? What's the future hold? What are people doing in other industries that we could take into our business? So that's a key part of what I do is trying to keep an eye out for opportunities or ways of working or processes or ideas or bits of software that we might use in our business to be able to help what we do.
Okay. How does it work with you and Roger then? Do you complement each other's skills within the business? Do you have separate organisations?
Where he would, if you ask him, and you probably get different answers. He'd say that he saves it and I spend it. But maybe that's just the nature of the different areas of the business that we work in. Roger's much more transactional than I am. He's very involved in the operations and the logistics of the business. So perhaps that's a reflection of our responsibilities, but there's maybe some truth in it as well.
Okay, all right. Before we unpack the 37 years, did you say?
Yeah, 37 years. Yeah.
Let's go right to the start.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up, and what did you want to be when you were older?
Oh yeah. Okay. Good question. So I was born in Loughborough, so they're not far away from here. School and study around here, then went off to university in Yorkshire, did electronic engineering, and I did it on a sandwich course. So 6 months in industry, 6 months at university, for 3 years last year at university. Really good courses. I don't think there are as many of those types of course around as there used to be, but you get an opportunity to put into practice in industry what you're learning at university, and that balance between the two is, I can only advocate it as a really great way to learn. You get a little bit more financial support that way as well, because you're earning for 6 months of the year as well, and you're building a relationship with that business as you're studying.
So that wasn't BPX at the time?
No, I did that with Brush in Loughborough, and in their industrial controls division, so variable speed drives.
Yep.
So DC drives into the paper and wire drawing industries, wire manufacturing, and regen drives into engine testing and things like that. Nice project, big drives. Enjoyed it. Went around all the different parts of the business.
Okay. And why did you go into engineering then at that age? What drove you to choose an engineering course?
Even now, if you see high-speed automation, you might be the same. I don't know whether you are, tell me. if you see something, high-speed production plants or robots working, you either get a buzz from that or you don't. Some people go into that environment and look at it and go, it means nothing to me. But I think you either are excited by that, and you are looking at it thinking, how do they do that? How does that work? Or you don't. And I guess I've always been like that. And from the early days of wiring up my bedroom so that when my mother walked through the door, the lights flashed or the music came on or something, just playing with those things, wiring up the Christmas tree lights so that they flashed in time with the music or something. It's just that was always the thing that I did. So it felt like a logical career move, really.
It wasn't influenced by BPX in the family?
It must have been. Yeah. But as a child, it's hard to have the exposure to what products are. You're aware that they're technical products and engineering, but undoubtedly it would have had an impact. Yeah.
Okay. So when you finished your course, did you start at BPX or did you have a job
No,
first?
I went to work in the world of data communications for a few years, 4 or 5 years. At the time when modems were big things. You remember modems?
Just about.
Ka-ding, 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 crazy noises. Yeah, they were. At a time when selling modems and multiplexers to banks and building societies and insurance companies, and modems and multiplexers were very expensive things at that time. They were building. It was a good time to work there. They were building backup data centers and second sites, redundant sites. So it was a good time to be there. It was a successful time, and I enjoyed working there. And I think it's progressed through the sales and sales management ladder in that business.
Okay.
Then got a call to say, are you ever going to come and work here or not?
Well, of course, that was my follow-on question. How did then you get into BPX?
I got a call to say, are you ever going to come and work here or not? I think probably at a time when somebody landing to be a sales manager in BPX was probably a good thing. And at a time that I came in as well, which was the late 80s, then there was an increasing uptake in PLCs, variable speed drives. They were beginning. PLCs were replacing relays, counters, and timers that were wired into control panels. Yep. And there was there was a change of technology, and it's very interesting. In those 37 years, I think we've probably been through 2 industrial revolutions. In that there was the computerization of manufacturing that took place there, maybe from the 60s through the 70s, the 80s, and that advent of computerization and miniaturization, transistors in control of manufacturing processes. Then more recently we've seen, I suppose, what you could call it a communications revolution, really, where everything is connected together. Yep. We talk about IoT and data passing into the cloud.
4.0.
And whether that's a revolution of data or communications, whether we've seen the end of it because of AI arriving, we'll wait and see. But I do feel as if we've looking back, we've lived through 2 very significant periods of change in manufacturing.
Yep. And things continue to change. What do you think the next change will be?
Well, AI is potentially a game changer in the way that it can apply. But I think what we're seeing now is the advent of software-centric automation. Automation where it's not the PLC, a block with inputs and outputs that's controlled, but it's a control that's being carried out by a computer within a computer environment, networked to I/O, with all the advantages that brings of being able to integrate computer technologies in there. The fact that these things work in languages that are the programming languages that graduates from university are familiar with. We don't have to train them in a PLC programming language that's 20 or 30 years old. And so that change is coming. I think when you marry that alongside the unarguable march of robotics, there's plenty of information about UK productivity not being as high as it should be. And for many years, the way to grow a business perhaps in the UK has been to put more people in. But now when you post-COVID, post-Brexit, it's more difficult to recruit people.
Yep.
And because of the rise of the costs of in employment as well, then the economic equation for considering robotic solutions or automated solutions is changing. At the same time, the cost of those technologies is reducing. So we will undoubtedly see exponential growth in the take-up of robots in manufacturing.
There's more and more drivers for it all the time.
All the time, yeah.
I just had this conversation with the previous guest about is it a culture problem within UK manufacturing that's why we're not adopting as quick as other countries, because we just like to keep things running.
You raise a really good point. It's quite a British thing, isn't it? If you go to a manufacturing site, to many of our customers, and they'll take you with pride to show you the machine in the corner that's been running for 40 years, and we're really proud of this because and probably rightly so. But you could go to other countries of the world where the machine has a design life of 15 years. At the end of 15 years, it goes because it's reached its design life. We need to get it anyway. So there are arguments for both. But what you describe, I think, about the UK culture is very true, and perhaps it does slow down our uptake sometimes of new technology. But what we often in that factory with that old machine, there's invariably a chap, because that's how industry was, and he's probably coming to the end of his working life now, whoever he is, Bob, and when that machine fails, they go, oh, let's speak to Bob, because he knows where to hit it. He knows where to put the hammer on it to get it working again. And that's the Bobs of the world are moving on, and it's very hard to put their experience into the head of whoever replaces them. And it creates an opportunity. That vacuum of that loss of experience and that loss of knowledge creates a vacuum that can be filled by new technologies, by new ways of doing things, by, as we spoke about just a minute ago, by about implementing software-based solutions that are more familiar to the university graduates of today. So there's much change happening at the same time.
Yeah. When you look back to those early days of your career, did you have mentors at that time?
Yes, I think so.
And how did they pass on their knowledge to you?
Yeah. So my first boss at Rakel was a mentor through my time there. John Donaldson, I have no idea where he is now. Really nice man. Worked hard, played hard, a Scotsman, and my induction took place in the pub, and that's the way it was. But he taught me an enormous amount about managing account management and also about people management. And then you look to people as you go through your working life, and you try and take the good bits from what they do. Look at Bob Hudson, who ran Telemechanique for many years when it came into the UK. Somebody who was probably 30 years older than me, I would guess. But admirable. He was aspired to be that professional, that knowledgeable, and that confident, whether speaking publicly or managing a meeting. And you learn from those people, and also from my father, who's very much an influence, and because he's an odd blend of generosity and frugality. He would if somebody needed £100, and they needed it, he would give them £100. But if you'd left a light on that shouldn't be on, he'd tear your ears off for wasting 5p. So you look at all of these people, and hopefully you take bits from each. Mm-hmm. But equally, it's important to look at what doesn't work. My dad was not a people manager, and he controlled everything in the business very tightly, but was very reluctant to give people responsibility and autonomy, and that way of management doesn't allow a business to grow. Mm. So being able to reflect on what works and what doesn't work is what doesn't work. Being able to reflect on what doesn't work is as important as reflecting on what does, I think.
Was there a point in your career where there was a light bulb moment around your father, and you learnt from that, and you changed the way, or was you, before you even worked in management, you already knew that?
I used to have some stand-up chin-to-chin rows with him about some of the stuff, I suppose, back in the day, because it was just trying to push stuff forward, and he'd have shared with me that if you weren't my son, I'd have fired you, and if you weren't my father, I wouldn't still be working here. So there were always a few of those, but that's necessary you have to put yourself sometimes into a place of discomfort in order to make progress. Yeah. And that was, I suppose, because of my relationship with him as his son, and probably with Roger too, then we were able to challenge where other people wouldn't have been able to challenge, I suppose. I did an MBA in end of the 90s, but that was very helpful. That was probably some time after those discussions and some time after that realization, but really helpful in understanding that our business is not alone in facing some of the problems it faces, and other people in other businesses are. It's as valuable for the people you meet on the course as it is for the things you study in the textbooks or the lectures. Yeah. So
what roles did you fulfill at BPX?
Came as sales manager.
Yep.
Vauxhall Cavalier. And and off we go. And we had 3 or 4 salespeople. But recognize, I think we were saying earlier that at the time that I came in, there was the advent of the PLC. We didn't have a strong PLC offer at that time. So going out to the market, looking around at what was there and what the opportunities were, and assessing our customer base, and falling into or structuring a relationship with Mitsubishi in 1989 was a big move for us, and they were and still are a really strong business in the world of control and automation and factory automation, and that relationship went really well for them and for us, and our business grew strongly through that period of time.
Okay. At what point did you become head honcho then?
On my LinkedIn profile, but probably about 2 years ago. I don't know. These are things that there isn't a particular date where you go, right, that is now my job title. Job titles are very interesting things, aren't they? If I had my way, everybody in our business would be vice president. Driving the van, vice president of parcel logistics, whatever you wish it to be, because it would take away some of the hierarchical stuff. But not everybody understands. Not everybody feels the same about that. So inevitably, businesses have to have job titles. And before too long, I know everybody would be vice president, but some would be senior vice president. That's the way it works. But so I'm not really very big on job titles, and there wasn't a moment where it changed from one to the other.
I had the exact conversation with a customer yesterday who said that he had always called himself a business development manager or something.
Yeah.
He's a director of the business.
Yeah.
The moment he changed to being European sales director or marketing director, doors were opening because people perceived him to be higher up the chain. And if you looked on Company's House, he was always a director.
Yes.
And I said, there's only 2 of us in our startup, and we just call ourselves co-founders.
Yes.
But it was only because we started talking to investors, they almost forced us to say, right, you're the CEO, you're the CTO, just so we know that you're the face and you're the brains.
Yes.
That was it.
Yes.
So it's sort of stuck, but it doesn't mean anything. We're just 2 guys that are trying to make something work. We do everything. You spin 1,000 plates. You're not just doing one job.
No, that is true. I think it also is important in the management of teams. You're not a good manager because of your job title. They do say if you have to tell somebody what your job title is, you're not in charge. If you have to tell them you're in charge, you're not in charge. That's probably what the saying is. And that's true, really. People judge you on the person you are, as whether you, and also you can be a manager without being a leader, and be a leader without being a manager.
Yep.
Sometimes there's a difference between your job title and your level of influence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are the biggest challenges you're facing today with BPX?
More than anything else is finding the people with the right skill sets and the right numbers to be able to do all that we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a difficult ask to find those people. You've worked in our industry for a long time, and when you consider the breadth of product ranges, if somebody rings BPX and then we're unsure what that call might be about. Anybody that's sat in one of our sales desks taking the telephone call is not sure whether that telephone call might be something about a ferrule for the end of a cable, a robot, a piece of software, an industrial PC, anything in between. And being able to get the right skill set, so to have somebody in that job role who has enough fundamental knowledge of the full breadth of the product range is an impossibility.
Yeah.
We can train and we can train. We may train on one product area, and
yep.
what are the chances that next call will be about that product area, or the call they get the next few days will be about that product area. It's not predictable. Mm-hmm. So it's training is a challenge. Being able to deal with the breadth of products is a challenge. It's not unique to us. With many businesses who share the same thing. And finding the right people with the right skill set. But we can train the skills. We will try and train the skills. Finding the right attitude is what we have to recruit on, what we have to hire on. And if we take the right people with the right attitude and over time help them to develop the skills to be the best that they can be, then we'll be successful. Mm-hmm. But it's not the easiest job to find those people.
No. There's also recruitment. 1, you've got to get them in the door, and 2, you've got to keep them. So how do you think about retention?
All the time.
Yeah.
There has to be a realism. People aren't going to stay with you forever, or everybody's not going to stay for a long time. We're really, really lucky at BPX. We have a lot of people that have been with the company a very long time. And many that have been a decade, many that have been 2 decades, and a few that have been 3 decades. It's really, really proud of that, and very grateful for the amount of time that people put in. We had one retire earlier on this year, and had done 43 years, I think.
Wow.
Somebody a couple of years ago, similar kind of number. So you can't say thank you enough to somebody that spent what's basically their entire working life in our business and contributed to its growth and the change in its development over that time. Mm-hmm. So you asked about retention, sorry. We ask all the time, what makes a difference? We survey every year. We act upon those, on the feedback from those surveys. We're constantly trying to tweak the benefits package to stay competitive in the market with the things that make a difference. But the relationship between people and work has undoubtedly changed since COVID. You think so?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There was a guest this morning filming, a lady called Fiona McGarry from Ingenuity, and she was talking about not just the generation that are coming into industry now, but the next generation even more so, that because of social media, they are so reliant on validation that the SMEs that she works with don't understand that. And they struggle with retention of these young people coming in because they still expect an apprentice or a young person to just, here's a week's training, get on with it. Well, actually, these young people now need constantly telling, you're doing a very good job, this is great, pointing them in the right direction. They almost need one-to-one mentoring now.
Yes.
Instead of best of luck.
Yes.
Which I think I feel like I was like on the end of that because it was very much best of luck when I started.
Yeah, it is a different relationship. I think the presence in the office has changed, and people perhaps proved that they could work from home during COVID and have been reluctant to come back to the office full time in some cases. And I do feel that over COVID, over the COVID period, we proved that we can work remotely, but we get better when we work together. We get better in a collaborative environment. We improve from the conversations that happen when we're all together, and sometimes they're not planned. They're spontaneous. They're a bit around, and the conversations with salespeople. To go and see customers, it's so important to go and see customers because you will have conversations that are not on the agenda. They're not what the call is about, but you will have a conversation about another machine that's there that you didn't know was there, or about a future project, or a drawing that's pinned up on a wall, or the contents of a control panel, and you'll only have those conversations because you're there. If you don't go, you won't have the conversations.
Yeah. It's not even a sale. It's just a the communication between you and the customer is much better in person. You build a relationship with that person much easier if you're there in person.
Yes,
whether it's politics or the weather or whatever your opening line is to start a conversation. You're on Teams for 20, 30 minutes and it pops up saying you're running out of time.
Yeah.
And then everyone's suddenly scrambling to get a call to action.
Yeah.
It's much more natural in person.
You will, provided you're polite, professional, attentive, follow up on what you've agreed to do, all of those things. But there again, if you're not those, you won't do well on Teams or in person.
That's true. That's true. What's the hardest challenge you've faced personally over the years? They're people ones. We've had times where we've lost people. Where when people have passed away when they've been employed, and that they've been the most difficult things. Absolutely the most difficult things. But the everything else is business. I think it's Simon Sinek that talks about it being the infinite game. There are no winners and losers. It's not 90 minutes and who scored the most goals. It goes on, and you get a bit better, or you win some stuff, but you lose some stuff, and you move around a little bit towards. You're aiming towards the other end, but it's at an infinite distance away from you. You've never finished, and I understand that explanation. But there's a responsibility and an opportunity for an employer to do the right thing, and those occasions occur when the people that are employed by the business or have an issue, have a problem, and inevitably all of us do at some point. Something happens in our lives, and then the mark of a good employer against one that's not is being supportive, being flexible, being there when it counts to be there, working out what's important for that person and how you're going to help. And those things are going on in our business now. And it sounds
idealistic and it sounds a nice way, but it's the kind of business that I'd want to work in, and it's the kind of business that I think we should be. And it's very important to me personally that we are that kind of organisation. And maybe there's a cost to that, but I think ultimately we get far more back from people as a result of that. So we don't do it because it has an economic justification. We do it because that's the kind of business that I would want to work for, and that's the kind of business I hope we are.
Yeah. So BPX Group, there's 6 businesses in. Is that right? Yep. 220 employees.
Yeah.
Plus you've got your own side project.
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah. How do you manage your time? There's a lot going on at all times. How do you know you're in the right place at the right time?
Very good PA.
Okay.
Excellent. And she knows whether I'm in the right place at the right time, and that's very helpful. It's a 24/7 job. I'm not. Mine's no different to many other people's like that. And, you know, I read my emails first thing in the morning and check them last thing at night. The phone's never off, and that's the nature of the job. But we have a very good team of people here, and they get through an awful lot of work. They take a lot of responsibility, and it's my job to make sure that they're equipped, empowered, and supported to be able to do that well. So it's not something I do on my own at all. It's something that's a team of people accomplish.
Yeah. Do you find moments that you can switch off? Maybe at the football.
Can you switch off at a Leicester City match? Yeah, definitely not. No. Who knows what might happen? No, I don't think so. I've had a holiday, but you know what it's like. You run your own business, and you never stop thinking about it.
It's really a holiday.
Do you switch off? No.
No, and so we now have a baby.
Yeah.
That's more front and centre. Now that I think about the time that I do switch off, or I try to switch off, because I don't think I do. Even if I'm present with my wife and the baby, there's still something niggling at me in my mind on my to-do list, or someone that I should have called last week, or I'm desperate for that PO, or something that's eating away at me still.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked if you ever find a moment that you do have some downtime. We went on holiday a few weeks ago. Still had to take my laptop. There's still got a lot of things going on. We're building things all the time that we're about to launch new stuff. There's always something.
And all I would advise if I'm maybe bold enough to offer any is to make sure you do have things that are time for you. I play tennis, like doing it. Well, if I'm chasing a ball around somewhere, then I can't think about work. And I can only chase it around for so long before I get exhausted. So you're not too long away from the phone, but or the emails. But it's important to make time to do stuff. Yeah. And so make sure you block it out. If you don't block it out, then it's very very quickly filled.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned at the start about inspiring younger people, and we all need to do more. So next lot of questions is very much around that. And I ask everyone the same scenario. Imagine you're stood in front of a classroom of the next generation of industry. What advice do you give them before they start their careers?
The advice that it's a really interesting question. I think what I would say is, let's go back a small step. When you're young, people say to you, "What are you going to be when you grow up?" And how would they expect you to know when you're 9 or 10? You've no idea. You've not seen many things, have you really? So there's this idea that you'll have some aspiration at that age is really a bit daft. And it's probably fair to say that when you're in your late teens or 20s, it's still the same. You're finding out whether what you're doing suits you or whether it doesn't suit you. But all I would say, the most important thing I'd say is whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability. There's no point in doing it if you're not doing it as well as you can. And if you do that, opportunities will open up. And it's then up to you whether you choose to take them. So that would be the first thing I say. I think the second thing would be a sponge. Soak up everything you can learn from all the people around you. Look at them, and as we said earlier on, look at the good things and look at the things that are not so good as well, and learn from those. Learn, watch, and open up. None of us have a monopoly on the good ideas. We can all learn from other people, and we learn all the time. Always be honest. Always act with integrity, and always be honest. Trying to get to the end of your career and going, well, I did the right thing by people. That's very important. And if you follow those things, I think whatever path you choose, then there will be opportunities. And the last thing is be brave enough to take them. You did. You believed in what you're doing here, and all credit to you. I'm full of admiration for you for taking the decision to go and start Engineers Insight and to make it a success. It takes bravery and commitment and
naivety,
and undoubtedly a lot of hard work. But if you don't make those brave decisions, you'll always wonder what if.
Yeah.
So be brave enough to take them.
Okay. What about skills? Any specific skills that you'd say for a younger person to develop? Not necessarily hands-on, but communication is one that always comes up. It's always transferable.
Yes. But having the right attitude is important. We've got some people here who are dyslexic, but they have, and over the course of years we've had some really, really good programmers that suffer from dyslexia. So they're able to program very, very competently, but struggle to write the notes to go with the programming, which is there's always ways to work around those things. I think we all have different skills. It's about finding the ones that we have, and then making sure we're doing a job that takes advantage of those skills. And they can be taught. Mm-hmm. The attitude can't be taught. As long as you're open to learning new things, that openness to learning, having an open mind, is more important than any skill you might have learned.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's more attitude than it is technical ability. Definitely. I think it's important to have a foundation of an understanding of something. But yeah, it's more the person.
You can learn that foundation at any time of your life.
You can, yeah. You can. I think things like communication skills and empathy.
Yes, good point.
Just having that right attitude to be in a team. Because a big business like this, they're going to have to deal with a lot of people and a lot of different teams, not just theirs. I think there may be skills that aren't necessarily missing the younger people coming in, but it's something they need to be wary of. That to be successful, you need to be able to talk to someone and have empathy in a conversation, understand another person, be curious about them and their background and where they come from and all that sort of stuff. That's important, from a person.
Yeah.
And you want that from a teammate as well. You want someone that wants to ask you questions and be in a conversation with you. I have another question. I'm going to jump forward and then back after this one.
You didn't tell me about
that. It's more around interviewing. So I'm sure you would have been in hundreds of interviews over the years.
Didn't always get the job.
But you're head honcho now. What is it that you're looking for in that person? Do you go in with a set of questions or are you just reading them in the situation?
Well, if I put it out there now, the people coming for a job will know what the questions are going to be.
Don't tell us the questions then. Tell us what you want from someone.
So you'll scupper the next interviews. Always interested in the person and their approach to how they answer the question rather than their answer to the question. Mm-hmm. There's an interview question that it's written about, which is, what is 37 times 37? And have you done that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
900
because it's a really difficult question to do in your head. It's a really difficult question to do in your head. So the answer is not necessarily about whether getting the right answer is not critical here. It's about how somebody sets about solving or answering the question they've been asked. Do they ask for whether they can borrow a calculator? Do they ask for a payment? They ask if it's all right if they get their phone out. And how they approach answering that question is more important than the answer itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. Well, I'll go back a step.
Okay,
I promised I would. I asked Fiona from Ingenuity this morning if she has a question around the skills, because that's her forte, that she would want to be asked to a business leader. So I'm going to bring it forward to this conversation. And her question was around diversity and inclusion and how do BPX make sure you are getting more diversity within the workforce? What are you doing to make sure you're employing more people from ethnic minorities or women into manufacturing?
Mm-hmm. We don't discriminate, and we will always try to choose the best person for the job.
Yep.
It's a subject. It's a discussion I've had with people from larger businesses now, and there is an understandable argument that you're more likely to receive male applicants for engineering jobs if the number of people going through engineering training courses or academy is more likely to be predominantly male than female, and that if without positive discrimination, then the imbalance is unlikely to ever be corrected. And I understand that argument, but it becomes difficult if you're going to overlook somebody who's the best person for the job in order to be able to take them. And but I don't think in BPX we've had a requirement to do that. I think we have a good spread of diversity in both ethnicity and gender. Some of that is because of the areas in which we're based. They're diverse anyway, and so there's strong representations of different ethnic groups. But also we don't have any discriminatory policy around gender either. So I think we've been fortunate to be able to gain a very diverse workforce without necessarily having to set out positive policies to achieve that.
Yes, I think it's an important answer because there are companies, very large companies out there that have gone the other way. Mm-hmm. And Fiona did caveat it with, one, you have to employ the best person for the job. Mm-hmm. And two, she feels sorry for young white males that are coming in because then they're almost being discriminated and you go too far. Mm-hmm. So you're right, it has to be best person for the job, whoever that is.
Yeah.
But male, female, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. I just thought I'd test you.
Did I pass?
Yes. Yeah, good answer. I've got another callback actually. So the current episode that's out now, time of filming, is a lady called Jackie Hanbury. Mm-hmm. She spent 22 years at Festo and ended up being the strategist for Festo. And now she runs a comms company and she does business mentoring. And there's a word that you mentioned right at the start of this podcast, culture. And when I sat with her, I said to her, what is culture? Because I hear it all the time and I have no idea how I would implement a culture in a business. So I asked her what sort of question I should ask other business leaders. And she said, what is the culture in your company and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, what is a good culture? I think it's easier to know when you've got the wrong culture because it's demonstrated in things that are happening that are not, you're not comfortable with. I'm not sure I'm able off the top of my head to answer the question, what is a good culture? I think it's one that's where people feel safe.
Yep.
Where people feel they're heard and listened to. They can state an opinion, make a suggestion, and it will be respected and heard. It's one where people feel there are opportunities to progress. But sometimes you can have a good culture in a business where those opportunities don't exist because of the size of the business. If you have small businesses, they don't necessarily have those opportunities, but they can have a good culture or a good team environment and feel very positive. Where everybody is sharing a goal or a vision, and they feel they're heading in the same direction and not pulling in opposite directions. Off the top of my head, those points come out. It's one of those things that probably half an hour after leaving this conversation with you, I might think of a few others.
On the drive home.
Yeah. What would you think? What would you put in that?
The reason that I asked Jackie was because I've seen culture written on walls at companies that I've worked for. But the management changes so often in these companies and the culture doesn't mean anything to them. They didn't write them on the wall. It was already written there. So it's a culture that's come down from another country.
Yes.
I'm going to say the country because just someone would know what it was.
Yeah.
So it's never really felt like the culture, you know. The culture is what we created in a team, and that's how we interacted with people. But as a business, I think it's quite hard. I'm not going to say it's easier for you guys, but everyone knows the structure here. They know that you and Roger. They feel part of the family. In a big corporate, you're almost a number. So it's hard to sort of, I feel sorry for the people that are putting the culture out there in these corporates because they write on the walls and hope that people read it. But as a person that works for that company, it's just it's a writing. It's a word on a wall that you walk past and don't even look at to go to the coffee machine.
Yes. I'm going to pull you up on one point that you made there, because your experience of our business is here in the head office environment, and here's where we've pictures of our history, where there are people here that have been able to tell you about that history, where there's an open door to the directors and the senior management team, and you can walk in and whoever works in this business, that door is open, and they will be they're welcomed and listened to at any time. So, but our business isn't just here. Our business is in 18 locations now. So, how do you try to reflect the same culture in locations that are further away, or newer branches where the people have joined more recently? They haven't had the long-standing experience, and there isn't anybody there that's worked for the business for the same length of time. So trying to I was going to say reflect that culture, but trying to transmit that culture over that distance is very, very tough. So what you end up with is variants of that culture. You hope the core elements will stay there. The way the company cares about, looks after as best as able to do the people that work in the business, supports and gives responsibility to and credits the people that work in the business should be the same wherever you are in our organisation. But being able to get the same feeling is hard to do. It will depend upon the team that's working there, the size of that team, the nature of the people within it. Mm-hmm. So it's not always easy to have a consistent culture across a business that's got multiple sites. Mm-hmm. As you say, it's tough for the ones that write the culture on the wall.
Yeah, it is. Okay, on to the closers.
Okay.
Are there any questions you'd like to ask me? I don't normally ask that. It's a privilege.
No, I was going to ask you what you after this actually, but we'll ask you. But what do you think will be if there's one thing you had to work on in Engineers Insight to make the business what you want it to be, what's the one thing you would do? What's the one key focus for you?
I think everything transpires to creating value to the user or for the user. Mm-hmm. So you obviously know the stuff that we're working on currently, but it's widening the breadth of what we can offer. Mm-hmm. So starting with a marketing tool of a scrollable newsfeed that's hopefully Friday. So by the time this is out, it should already be in the market. There'll be a jobs tab, and then the next one will be where to buy, and they'll go to the web shops of the certified distributors. And then can we create a space where it's where you can find all the training in one place? Yeah. And I think more so over making money out of the manufacturers, it's more important that we solidify ourselves in the market, UK first, of the go-to place for an engineer. If it's easy for them to find something they're looking for, then naturally the business will grow.
And what will make the difference for you to be the go-to place?
I think that there's two things we're chasing. One is uptake.
Yeah.
So we need more people to use it, and the second will be engagement.
Okay.
Which I'm hoping like this jobs tab will be. It's another thing. It'll be updated every day. There'll be more jobs in.
And some brilliant podcasts, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We'll start breaking up the news feed with podcast clips, and the news feed's now more video orientated, bit like social media. So instead of having, we average 40% users return every month, but they average let's just say 1 minute. 1 minute engagement in that one visit.
Yeah.
That's not enough for it to replace you going to LinkedIn 5 times a day just to refresh the news feed. So there needs to be more happening. So like even case studies, news articles, why not have that in one place?
Yeah.
You know, we've got conversations with publications, give them a space to put their articles in. And when I look back to the original idea in 2019, I thought, I don't care who I annoy. I nearly swore. I don't care who I upset here. Whereas now, actually, it's not about that. It's about create value for the end user, and everything else will follow, and the business will grow, and we'll make some money off the back of that.
Yeah. The word you use is value, isn't it? If the people you want to be the users of the site perceive a value in, then they will gain a value, receive a value by going to the site, and the information they learn, the opportunities that are there, whatever it is, then they will visit the site. It's about value.
Yep.
It is for us all. And for our business, it's what value do we provide to our customers? What is the value that will make a difference to them? How do we decide how do we deliver, best deliver that value?
Yeah.
For us, for a long while, it's been in the premise of our business that help to choose, help to use, and help our customers navigate their way through a very complicated product portfolio, find the right product, and then help them use that product and get the best they can from it. But it's harder to define for you here, I think, because that value could take many forms.
Yes. Well, I mean, 3 months ago, I hadn't even thought about a jobs thing. 4 or 5 months ago, I hadn't thought about training. It's just the more people you talk to, the more problems you find, the more things we can fix. And then that's where the value is. It's the same if you're selling PLC and automation. they've got a problem on a shop floor, you can supply a solution.
Yeah.
They'll use you again. That's what we're sort of trying to find our market fit in that world.
Okay. So if somebody listens to this podcast, and maybe one or two, you never know.
They've got this far.
What's the one thing you would ask them to do?
Oh, it's got to be download it, surely.
Download
yeah.
it.
It's free.
Download
Where's the
app.
camera? It's free.
Download the app.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. How important is legacy to you?
It's a family firm. The business is important. It's been like having it's existed since I was 7. It's been like having another brother or a sister.
Mm-hmm.
It's when it's sick and needing some attention and looking after. It's had to have that, and it's been as if there's another sibling there to take care of, and much like another sibling as well, you have to let it go and let it fly. And I'm mindful that there was a period of time that in my parents' generation they started it and grew it, and the time that I've been here, and Roger and Nick, my brothers, we've grown the business to where it is, and very proud of what we've been able to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to put the business into make sure that it's strong and able to carry on growing and continue to thrive for many years to come. That's the best legacy that I can hope for is the continued success of the business, really.
Yep. Do you consider yourself successful?
I think that's very dangerous to consider yourself successful. I've been very fortunate, and the business has been successable. I think I've been fortunate to be able to work with with really good people, to have a really good team of people here, and whether that's been by good luck or by good recruitment is probably a bit of both.
Well, my follow-on was the success you've had. Would you attribute to hard work or luck?
Well, good recruitment and a bit of good luck,
and a lot of hard work,
and a bit of hard work.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We can relax now. That's all the questions. I'm all out.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting us the day.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for whether you know or you've realised over the years that you've been a mentor to me in my career. That you knew about Engineers Insight 2 years before 99% of the people did. Probably you, my wife, and and a few others.
Yeah.
So thank you for your support over the years. Thanks for the continued support with Engineers Insight.
You're welcome. Wish you every success with it.
Thank you.
Thanks.